Proud of You is a parenting advice podcast and support group for dads hosted by two goofy dads. They are not pediatricians, nutritionists, OBGYNs, psychologists, nor are they authorities on parenting. They're just two dinguses trying to figure it all out. Their advice should not be taken as expert information. Parenting looks different for everyone, and there's no wrong way to be a dad. Frankly, if you're taking the time to listen to a podcast about it, you're already doing a great job. And these dads are proud of you.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Hey, welcome back. I'm Derek Mata.
And I am Andrew Goody, and we are proud of you. This week has kicked my ass, Derek.
Yeah, so you were telling me that the past 6 weeks have been kicking your ass because, I mean, I know what your job is, and you don't obviously have to go into detail for everybody else, but I made a joke today, and I felt bad making the joke, but you're a busy,
No, I knew you were joking.
Man.
I just threw it back at you because I was like, oh, really? For those of you who aren't in Derek and I's text thread, we were talking, I can't even remember what we were talking about, but Derek was like, just do it right now. What else are you doing? And I was like, boy, let me tell you. Man, it's been wild. And like, you know, we talk about it all the time. Like parenting is just another level, right? Like life is crazy and life is wild. But man, like being a full-time employee and a full-time dad, and then trying to also have my own life, right? Like it's so crazy. And it's just been busy. This past, you know, you said 6 weeks, this past 6 weeks, I don't know if it's been 6 weeks. It's been somewhere between 4 and 8 weeks. Time is a flat circle. I have no idea what month it is. It's July because they were lighting off fireworks last week. Like it's
2 weeks ago for when this episode posts.
Yeah. Whatever. But again, time is a flat circle, man. It's so hard to keep up. But yeah, it's been wild. Alana's going through a pretty gnarly sleep regression, and so like I'm the primary bedtime parent, and you know, when I put her down, it's taking a lot more effort to get her to sleep, right? Like we got to this really chill point where it was like her and Emily would nurse on the couch and watch an episode of Bluey, and then when that episode ended, I took her, we'd lay down in the bed, we'd read a book, and she'd fall asleep while I was reading the book. And now we're back to like, I have to bounce and sing a bunch of lullabies, and like the physical, there's a lot of like psychological and physiological stuff of like bouncing or swaying. Those like soft, consistent movements help. I call it shake out the wiggles. That's what I tell Alana. Like, we're going to bounce out all of your wiggles, but it really is like, it helps to calm your nervous system and release any of the excess energy that a kid has at the end of the day. And man, she has just had some excess energy. And so bedtime is taking longer. And then like she's been sleeping for probably 3 or 4 hours on a good night. And then she'll wake up just like scream crying. And we're pretty sure that she's having growing pains. Like she is shot up. I mean, you saw her the other day when we came over. She has shot up probably 2 inches in the last month and a half.
Yeah, like her and Ivy are.
Yeah. And so like she's growing like a weed, and I think that's, you know, she's waking up in pain, right? Which is the saddest thing to think about.
Yeah, because she can't verbalize that. So you're just like, why are you waking up? And which would almost make sense with Noah, because Noah's done that a lot, and you know, sometimes a little worse, you know, a little more than others. And we always assumed that Noah had FOMO. Noah loves having fun, as you know. And we're like, he wakes up and he just like, man, something's probably going on outside of this room. And we never even thought about like, hey, maybe it is growing pains, because toddlers grow so fast. You go back and you look at pictures, like April sent me a side by side of the kids then and kids like 6 months ago. I couldn't tell you what the actual date was, but it wasn't too far in the past. I'm like, how much they have changed.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
But again, sleep. when people are like, "Oh, I'm so tired," like there is nothing tired. They're like, there's no tired like a sleepless parent tired.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, admittedly, I'm kind of spoiled, right? Because Alana was a really easy sleeper from the very start, right? So like we've talked about it before in our episode on sleep that she was a pretty easy sleeper. So like I have a hard time complaining about it because I'm like, man, like I had 2 years of really solid sleep with her. Somewhere Emily's listening to this screaming, but
April probably is like, oh yeah, Derek had the same shit.
Yeah, but like but yes, and it's just, you know, that affects everything else, right? So like she's not sleeping well, which means I'm not sleeping well, and Emily's not sleeping well, which makes my work life harder, it makes my personal life harder, and then Alana's not sleeping well, so she needs extra attention, she needs extra comfort, she needs extra play and stuff, and we're trying to like, it sounds weird, but like play with her more to wear her out during the day so it's like she is more tired, so that she sleeps better, but then it's still just like, and again, I think it is growing pains. We thought that she was having bad dreams at first because she would wake up like, ouch, it's hurting, like you know, you've met Alana, she's super verbal, right? Like, so her communicating stuff really isn't the problem, it's what she's trying to communicate. And we kind of figured out like, oh, she's waking up saying that like her legs are hurting or her back is hurting or like it's getting her arms, and it's like, oh yeah, like I remember having like growth spurts and like, yeah man, my arms hurt, my legs hurt, my back was sore because I was, you know, in pain from growing so much, my bones and my muscles were trying to keep up.
No, that's interesting that at 2 years old, I you know, guesstimating here. I hardly know my own kid's age. Joke, by the way, that she can say all these things, but like again, trying to, you're tired by the end of the day. I mean, yes, you co-sleep, so like I want to touch on that / my own experience. By the end of the day, you just wanna go to bed. We are kind of in the same boat. Like by the end of the day, we want to hang out. Like me and April, we want to hang out. We want to do something. We want to watch a TV show, but we are just so fucking exhausted.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm gonna have my beer and then I'm going to go to sleep. Like,
yeah, no, there's no middle ground. It's and that, you know, again, not to pile onto the negativity here, but like that's a bummer too, right? Because like spending time with my partner is such a rejuvenating thing for me. Like Emily and I getting the chance to spend time together and talk and laugh and hang out adds energy. It fills me up. And so like not having that is another drain where I'm like, okay, now I'm physically exhausted and mentally exhausted and emotionally exhausted. Like,
damn, and you start making those and you start making those excuses. We've mentioned it on past episodes, like you make the excuse once and then you're like, oh, that shit worked. It's like everything in life, you make that excuse once. Hey, can I push this boundary? Can I do this? Can I do that? Your intentions are never bad, but you do it and it works, and you do it again and you do it again. And I'm not saying like that's what we do. Like we are tired. Tiredness, you know, our room is hot as fuck. So we get terrible sleep. We got Noah waking up because he thinks we're having a party downstairs while we're sleeping. Potty training on top of that. God, we're potty training, or Noah is potty trained, but we're potty training Ivy at the same time. As dads, we have so much going on, and it's like, when do we have time? Like we were talking before we started recording. I got my motorcycle shit in, right? We're talking about changing the space for our recording, right? And I'm sitting here like, man, I got all these fucking ideas. When am I going to implement this shit?
Yeah.
Like, when? I need you to come over and be like, Derek, get your ass over fucking doing this.
Yeah, but the problem is every spare minute I have, I'm trying to catch up on sleep.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, you know, the projects stack up and everything. And like you get through it, right? I mean, as much as I could sit here and complain, and I will sit here and complain about how tired I am and how overwhelmed I am and how stressed I am.
Yeah.
Like, I'm also so fulfilled. I'm so happy. I love my life. I love my kid. I love my wife. I love my job, which like how many people can say all of that, right?
Yeah,
like
I mean,
I genuinely love so much of my life. And like, that's a lot. It's a lot to manage. And because I like all of those things, I want all time with all of those things, right? Like, it's weird to say, but like, if I hated my wife and kid, it would probably be easier because I could just be a deadbeat dad and focus on my own shit and not be worried about it. I want to spend time with Emily. I want to spend time with Alana. I want to, you know, be the best employee that I can be and do my job well and you know, like take ownership and be intentional with all of these things that I do. And then you add on to that, like, social groups and you know, I think that's part of it. Like, it's funny how up and down this period has been. I know I'm talking a lot.
No, you know, because again, you and I are both going through this same shit, and it's always we outside looking in. We see these guys who are huge sports fans, and they have again. Anybody who missed any of our previous episodes know that Goody and I are not really sports people. So like, we don't care if there's a game on, but the sports people, I'm going to use you as an example again. I'm sorry, nothing against you. It's just easy. It's an easy target here. They know how to make that time. We don't, because we have other things, right? So,
well, and I make time for the things that I do care about, right? Like, if I was a sports fan, I'm sure I would make time to go to games in the same way that, like, I was going to say I'm a movie fan and I make time to go to movies, but I really haven't done that in the last couple of years.
I don't remember the last time I went to the theater.
But like, so, you know, I was trying to say, like, the ups and downs of the last month, like, yeah, it's been crazy and I've been tired and I've been busy. And also, like, my favorite band is touring, and my best friend since I was like 5 years old came into town, and he and I got to go to see a show together. And I made time for that. Like, it was on my calendar, hard blocked. Like, if the world ends on Monday, I'm still going to this concert on Tuesday night. Like, there is no maybe about it, right?
But okay, so I want to cut you off here, but like, I feel like that is such a once in a lifetime kind of thing. But like, if we were to do our hobbies, like, let's say you and I are going to work on my motorcycle. Let's just like a fucking random example here. Like, it's not a fucking priority, but like, how often does your favorite band come into town for their their final tour or whatever the fuck they called it? Again, like, you don't want to miss that final thing, but that motorcycle's been sitting outside for 2 months. Does anybody actually give a shit? No. You see the difference? Well, like, dads are on that kind of level.
So, I mean, that goes back to prioritizing, right? I mean, you choose what you invest your time in. You and I met up with friends this past weekend to play Magic the Gathering. That wasn't a priority, right? That wasn't something that we had to do. It's something that we wanted to do, and some fun to fill that social cup and revitalize some of the emotional energy that we have to get through the hard and challenging parts of life, you know?
And real quick, just so anybody knows who's listening or watching, like, that was that's the first time that I've gotten into it because I am getting into my huge nerd side of me at 35 years old. So don't lose hope of your being a nerd. Like, don't hate being a nerd, because I'm doing it at 35 because of my friends.
Yeah, this has been a huge nerdy transformative year for Derek.
It really has.
We dragged him to his very first Comic-Con. He's playing Magic the Gathering now. Like,
my Jeep key hangs on that Comic-Con like lanyard that they gave us when we went. So like, huge nerd. But again, that, like, I want to go to more of those because it was super awesome.
Yeah.
But I have to make time for that. The Magic thing that we did, we had to, I don't know, keep going with what you're saying, because like, in my mind, I'm processing it. All right. Like,
no, it's overwhelming, man. I mean, that's my whole point. Like, we don't really have a theme for this episode because we didn't have time to come up with a topic to talk about. We've both been so busy that we were just like, hey, fuck it, we're recording.
We hit record, we waited, and we started talking. So,
well,
exactly.
But that's okay. This is the perfect example, right? Neither of us made the time this week to come up with a topic for the podcast, but both of us blocked off the time this week to record the podcast because putting out this content is important to us. And we knew that, like, this episode would still be engaging and would still be fun. And like, we shoot the shit most of the time on this show anyway. And whatever our plan for a topic is kind of a loose jumping off point for what we end up talking about.
I mean, yes.
So we were like, you know what? Like, it'll be fine. It'll be good. We'll put out the same, we'll put in the same intention in the conversation that we have, but this show is just you and I drinking a couple beers and talking about what's going on in our lives. And
to be fair, no,
necessarily be centered.
I'm drinking
around
a beer, and you're drinking some fancy ass shit that I always watch you drinking. Like, for anybody listening,
Sazerac today.
What the fuck is that? For anybody listening, Goody is my bartender. I go to his house. I'm like, this is what I'm looking for. I went to your house, a couple Sundays ago. I was like, I need something light and refreshing. Like, I got you. You fucking did it. What? Explain to people what you call it?
Oh, it's a Sazerac. It's like it's a whiskey drink. If you're familiar with like an old fashioned, it's whiskey with a little bit of absinthe and some Peychaud's bitters. Like, it's not complicated.
See, I don't know what the fuck the bitters part is, but like, again, learning new things. I love learning new things. I wish, because I talked to you before, like, I wanted to be as a side job because I thought it'd be cool as a bartender. I don't have time to learn fucking drinks. Like,
yeah.
I'm going to be 100 years old and be like, I wish I was a bartender at one point in my life because I think it would be fun.
See, and I somehow, I've broken the timeline and I'm 33 and I've done a little bit of everything, man. Like, it's people give me a hard time for how much of a jack of all trades I am, because like you're like, hey, I need to build this wall in my garage. I was like, yeah, I know framing. Like,
yeah,
I need to split this outlet. Yeah. I can do electrical. It's cool.
I can too. Remember, I've got
you
that.
Need a drink? I'll bartend.
Yeah, my 35th birthday. April's like, hey, we need a bartender. Boom, you're the guy. So it's we all do live different lives, and we just have to. Again, you said prioritize. It's we don't have the answer for that, and I'm sorry for anybody who's listening thinking that we're gonna tell you the fucking get rich quick scheme. We don't have it. We're doing the same shit you're doing, trying to figure it the fuck out.
If Derek and I knew the secret to perfectly prioritizing your life to make the most money and have the most fun and enjoy your life the most, we would be wildly rich and successful people who just ran the world, because nobody has those answers. I mean, that's the secret. And I think that's the thing that a lot of dads need to hear is like, we're all just figuring it out, man. And like, when I talk about priorities, right? Like, I prioritize this podcast. I prioritize going to a concert. I prioritize time with my daughter. Some of that stuff is hardline priorities, right? Like, every Wednesday night, we record this podcast on Wednesdays. Every Wednesday night, I've got a block in my day planner that says, I'm going to be recording Proud of You. And that is a hardline priority, right? Unless I'm, and I mean, if something comes up, obviously, like, life and my family comes first, right? If Emily's in a car wreck, God forbid, or whatever, like, we're going to cancel this recording and we're going to do it on a different day, or we're not going to have an episode that week. But like, if you know, shy of a major catastrophic event, this is always going to be a priority for me. Showing up to work every day has to be a priority, because one, I care about my job. I like my job. I want to keep progressing in my job. Two, it pays everything, right? It keeps the roof over my head. It keeps the air conditioning running. It pays for my food. Like, you know, so obviously that's going to be a priority. And there's different levels of that. The looser priorities of like taking Alana to the park, or playing Magic on a weekend, or whatever it is, sometimes those are very intentional, and I am setting time aside to play with Alana, or I'm setting time aside. It took us 2 or 3 weeks of lining up schedules to get 4 30-something adults lined up for a weekend of playing Magic the Gathering together. And so like that, sometimes it's very intentional like that. Sometimes it's like, hey, I got off work and I'm choosing to spend time with Alana. I'm choosing to prioritize this project that has been sitting around, right? I've got these motorcycle parts that have been sitting in my garage for however long. Today. I'm choosing to do that, right?
They got it today.
Well, yeah, yours, but that's what I'm saying, right? Like, I know because we're recording this podcast that when those parts came in, you didn't prioritize putting them on your motorcycle to get your bike street legal.
God damn it, you know what? I'm out of here. The motorcycle comes first.
Well, thanks for joining us. No. No, but like, so that's, you know, and I don't ever want to come across like we have our shit put together. End of sentence. but like, you know, because there's so much that we're still just trying to figure out and stumble through.
And you'll never figure it out. There's not a time in life you're like, man, when I'm 50 years old, I got this shit figured out, because your priorities will change. Your kids will be off at college. Your kids will be, because we all have kids at different ages. Your kids are off at college. Your kids are buying the first house or having the first baby, that kind of thing. And you just got to be like, hey, what am I going to do? Your PTO suddenly isn't about taking a trip overseas. Your PTO is now about going to visit your grandkids, because that is your priority. And it sucks. Being human sucks. Like, I don't know how else to phrase it. I wouldn't give this up for anything, but I wish we had more time in a day, but we don't. I wish I was rich as fuck and I could just be like, my passive income, you know, as normal working class people, passive income doesn't actually exist. People rip me apart in the comments. Please, I dare you. But the passive income doesn't exist for me to spend 8 hours with my family, or 8 hours building motorcycles, or X, Y, Z. Like, again, my job that I work 8 hours a day with my commute 9 to 10 hours a day, that's what pays my bills. That is priority number one.
Yeah.
Like, and we're all on that. And
you have to think like in a perfect world, right? A day is 24 hours.
I mean, in a normal world, anybody's world, the day is 24 hours.
Well, yes, thank you for letting me finish my sentence. A day is 24 hours, and in a perfect world, that's a 3-way split, right? You sleep for 8 hours, you work for 8 hours, you play for 8 hours.
Yeah.
But for most people, you're commuting, so work is 10 hours.
Yeah.
Maybe longer. A lot of jobs, 8 hours is actually 9 hours because you have an unpaid lunch in there. So like, then 10 hours becomes 11 hours. If you work in a transportation industry or a service industry or a lot of like, you know, working jobs, you're working a 10-hour shift anyway. So now you're talking about 12 hours. Like it can really overwhelm things. And then how much of that 8 hours of just like, you know, again, let's go back to assuming a 3-way split, 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of work. How much of that 8 hours of play is scrolling on Instagram or just sitting on the couch because you just got off of an 8-hour work shift and you want to relax for a bit because you're tired and exhausted? How much of that time is spent eating or going to the bathroom or doing menial showering, brushing your teeth, like the stuff that just has to happen to exist, right? Like your actual amount of time that you get to just enjoy really is the part that gets dwindled out of that, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're like me and Derek, you just suck that energy out of the time that you should be sleeping.
No, and you know, it's funny you bring that up, because a friend of ours, you know, he was over on Sunday. That's his biggest thing, is I don't want to lose out on the time that I'm awake, the time that I can actually enjoy my life for sleep. But then he comes in the next day and he's like, I only got 3 hours of sleep because I wanted to enjoy that time. And it's it's a never ending cycle. How am I going to do this, that, and another? It's a sad reality of the world.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, sleep debt's a real thing, man. Like, your body needs 8 hours of sleep. I don't care how much you tell yourself that it's fine with 6 or 5 or 4 or whatever. You can make that trade on a short term, right? Like, if I really need to get this project that I'm working on done, or whatever that is, right? Sure, I can stay up late and I can get 4 hours of sleep. I'm going to be a dredge the next day, right? My productivity the following day is going to be way down. I'm going to be running on coffee and hopes and dreams. Like what I accomplish the following day is not going to be nearly what it would have been if I got 8 hours of sleep. And then the next night, I'm probably going to need maybe not 12 hours, but probably at least 8 to 10 to catch up on those 4 hours that I lost. Right. And they've done studies that our last episode on not trusting what you hear on the internet, don't listen to me, but do your own research. They've done studies that getting less than 8 hours of sleep per night takes time off of your life. Like literally you are sacrificing years off of your life, akin to like the way that smoking takes years off of your life. Not quite as extreme, obviously, because lung cancer is used to be a leading cause of death, and thankfully a lot of people have stopped smoking because of that. But like it is hugely detrimental and can take literal years off of your life just not getting 8 hours of sleep. This is the part where Derek Googles what I have just said. And
nope, I almost knocked my beer over. Oh, shit. That would have been bad. No, keep going.
No, it's hugely detrimental, and so like that trade-off can work in the short term, but you've really got to make up that sleep debt, because Repo Man's gonna come and he's gonna take that time back.
No, I know, and like I am at that stage in my life, like, I'll catch up later. Like, when's later?
Yeah.
When does later? Like your kids will not always have perfect sleep until about teenagers. Lucas is finally sleeping until fucking 9 o'clock. I remember when April and I first got married. This kid would wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning to make breakfast, and I'm like, why the fuck am I getting woken up at 6 o'clock in the morning? And now I have kids who wake up whenever the fuck they want to. Like it's, and then it's like fucking work, and like there's. You want that one more episode. Trust me, I've been there. I was there 2 nights ago. I was watching 13 Hours again for the second time. I have to finish this movie. Got to finish the movie. Not realizing what that's gonna do for the following day. So I was feeling pretty rough, and the amount of caffeine you drink, it doesn't help as much as you think it does. I love caffeine. I love my coffee. I will drink a pot of coffee a day, if not more. And all it does is make me need a beer or 17 by the end of the day. I'm kidding. I do not drink 17 beers at nighttime, but it requires something to then counteract that, and then I'm too tired. It's a back and forth. Don't do that.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's that goes for so much, right? Like we try to, and we live in this capitalist society that's always trying to market us solutions, right? So like, hey, you didn't get enough sleep, drink this coffee, drink this energy drink, take this caffeine pill, whatever supplements that help stimulate, green tea extract that helps you be more energetic, B12 vitamins, B12 vitamins, shots, like all kinds of shit. And then it's like, oh, you took all these wild energy supplements. Here's this Unisom or here are these sleeping supplements. Take this sedative to get yourself to bed. And like, man, if you just drop it all, right? And like I'm one to talk. I've drank pretty much 2 energy drinks a day since I was like 14 years old. But I am currently detoxing all of that. I'm going on a month here.
Impressive, honestly. And, I couldn't do it.
I mean, the thing that I found is like it was fixing a problem that was created by the thing, right? Like I was drinking Monsters because I was tired, but I was tired because I had drank Monsters. And so Monster, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I don't need monster to not be tired, because that was the thing that was making me tired in the first place, and it becomes this vicious circle, you know.
Yeah, and then you become, you know, what's what I'm looking for,
Dependent.
that you become dependent on it, or you need just that little bit more, 2 turns into 3 turns into 4. You need that 5 milligrams of melatonin to 10 to 15 to 20, and suddenly you're taking a whole bottle of, I don't know what the hell is on my nightstand right now, but like you need a whole
Heroin.
bottle of that. No. Heroin does not make you sleep, or so I've heard from movies. But you know, you're taking a handful of pills to like just to go to sleep, and then your body shuts down because it can't actually handle that shit. And that shit actually does happen. You know, again, we're not doctors, we're not scientists, but we grow our resistances to these things, and we just need a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more until it's deadly. So it's the take the week off from alcohol, take the week off from even the back of the melatonin bottle. It tells you if it's more than 7 days, consult a doctor. 7 to 10 days.
I would have no way of knowing.
I've taken a lot of melatonin in my life because I am a huge insomniac, unfortunately.
I just don't read bottles, but yeah.
Oh, okay, that's fair. I do because I don't want to die. But I'm kidding. I'm not saying you want to die, but it's prioritizing that one episode that you think is going to make or break your life. It can fucking wait. We all watch about 1,700 billion different shows these days. That it's not, hey, did you see the latest episode of Game of Thrones? Yes, I understand it's been off air for a couple of years at this point, but like everybody knows that we have shit going on. If you can't watch it tonight, watch it tomorrow. Talk to your buddy at work about that shit a day from now. The show's going to be the same. Trust me.
It's funny that Game of Thrones was your go-to reference there, because House of the Dragon is like the hot shit right now, and that's just Game of Thrones.
No, I know. But like, I okay, so like,
yeah.
I use that reference because somebody at work that you know watches it, and he knows I don't watch it, so he's not like, hey, let's have a conversation about it, because like it's hot enough that he wants to watch it every week, but he's like he doesn't feel the need to talk about it.
Yeah. Well, and this is actually a conversation that I've had with Emily, right? Because like that, a lot of the time that's our like bedtime cool down between the two of us, is like after Alana goes to sleep, she and I will watch an episode of whatever. And if we're like intentionally watching a show together, sometimes that's like very intensely watching that thing, but a lot of the time it's like throwing on whatever that we've seen 101 times and talking about our day and connecting, right? And like even if it is that new show that we're watching together, or that old show that one of us has never seen that we're watching together, even if we're not talking, we're still connecting in that way, you know? And so like that's our time, and we get an episode or sometimes 2 episodes between when Alana goes to bed and when we go to bed. But like with this sleep regression that's been going on lately, I'm like, hey, when I take Alana to bed, like when I start our bedtime routine, go sleep in the guest room and get as much rest as you possibly can, because we both know that at 2 a.m. she's going to be waking up. So like you need to get rest, because you were, you know, we've both commented like getting to the point of like dangerous levels of exhaustion in the last little while. And so, you know, that's a trade-off too, right? That's a prioritization, because sometimes it's like, yeah, like, hey, I really need that extra couple hours of sleep. I'm going to go sleep in the guest room while you put the baby down so that I can get some more rest. Sometimes I would rather be a little bit more tired tomorrow and spend that time with my wife. And she is progressively just like refusing to sleep. She's yelling at her phone somewhere right now. But like she is refusing to sleep because she's having insomnia issues, which I think probably is just her body being like tense and reactive to the fact that every time she falls asleep, 20 minutes later she has to wake up because the baby's crying, right?
Yeah. And it's, I honestly, I don't even know what to say at this point, because like, same situation.
Yeah.
It's a conversation that April and I had recently, that we want to do these things together. I want to do these things with my wife. Honey, I know you're listening to these podcasts or watching these or however you listen to these. I also know that sleep is more important, because I want us to have 50 years of marriage versus 30 because we're too goddamn tired. Because like we were pushing off the sleep. Like the average human cannot run on 4 hours of sleep for a year, 2, 3, 4, 5, 16 years straight. Sleep is super fucking important.
Yeah. Heard, Jeff.
And my thing is, like, I used to love gaming. Like, again, we have made references to my computer that is sitting here that I built for gaming purposes, and it doesn't make sense at my age to fucking sit up till 1 o'clock in the morning every single night to game. Because what do I benefit?
It's something that you can make a priority when you want to be a priority, right? I mean, like, obviously when you built that computer, that was a priority for you, right? Because you were investing the time in learning how to build a PC and researching all of whatever specs that you wanted that build to have. And you were investing the time in gaming, right? You invested the time in building the computer because you were investing the time in the games that you were playing with the friends that you had at the time. Just because you're not doing it every night.
I still have.
Yeah. So like, that's my point, right? Like, you're not prioritizing that right now, but you still have that resource and you still have that knowledge. So, and technology is kind of difficult because things do start to get outdated. It's not as bad as it was like 10 years ago, where you built a PC and then the next week there were new parts that made yours outdated. But like, you know, if you want to stay up and play games with that friend group on a random Saturday, you still can, right?
But
you don't have to, but you get to make that choice.
You mentioned a random Saturday. I am allotting that time. I'm making that block of time 1 day a week, similar to recording this podcast. Some people will spend outrageous amounts of money on a PC and then want to stay up till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, when they know they have to be at work by 6 o'clock. Kind of thing.
Like, I did it like all through college. I ran on hopes and dreams and illicit drugs and and that's just like, that was the regular, man. Like, I was up until 2 a.m. every night and I had class at 8 a.m.
Again, to be fair, when we were in our early 20s, like, you were single.
Yes.
I don't think
I mean, like, I was.
I got no. I mean, like, not married.
I was unmarried. Yeah, I was.
You were unmarried. I think I was married my first time then, but that's neither here nor there. But you could recover from when you're in your 20s. You would drink until 4 o'clock in the morning, wake up at 10 o'clock, and you had no hangover.
I mean, I could still do that. The problem is I don't want to. Like, that's the reality of,
what the fuck?
Like,
you can still do that. No, the fuck you can't. You're going to be hungover.
Listen,
Shit.
I talked about it in our last episode. You take one Advil, a multivitamin, and a glass of water before you go to bed. As long as you stayed hydrated while you were drinking, you're fine the next morning.
All right.
Learn to drink like an adult.
You got me there, because you mentioned that in whatever text message group chat or whatever fucking shit you told me. Like,
hey, dude, so this is something that when I lived in LA, I made one of the dearest friends that I have. Will Nimmo. He's the guy who tells you not to listen to our advice at the beginning of this podcast. So Will and I met.
That's him.
That's him. That's Will. He
just followed us.
the guy just now. Thanks, Will.
Yeah, thanks, Will.
Been 37 episodes. Thanks, bud. Man, just put him fully on blast.
No, I am putting this. This is our short form. I'm
100%. 100%.
I'm calling 100% out.
Will and I met when I was living in LA, and I told he turned 21 when he and I were living together, and he and I have talked about it over the course of the years, and like, I taught him that drinking trick when he was 21 and we were, young and dumb and knew everything about the world. And he said, like, dude, it is a game changer. Like, that Advil multivitamin glass of water before you go to bed is the difference between whether you have a good day or a bad day the next day. And I'm not encouraging anybody to go out and get shit faced every night or drink all the time, but like, that's just the reality of it. Is like, I can still do all that dumb shit that I did when I was 20. I just don't want to. And when I do it, I do it smarter than I ever did when I was 20 years old. Because I didn't have to take an Advil and a multivitamin and a glass of water when I was 20. I could just drink 7 beers as soon as I woke up, and I'd be fine.
I mean, I will say, like, I have gotten smarter over the years with my drinking. Like, I will be like, okay, I need to pace myself, because God only knows what tomorrow brings. But like, I know I'm not 20 years old. I don't take an Advil, a multivitamin. It's a fucking water. If I take a Tylenol before bed, that's a fucking, you know what? That's a good day for me.
Oh, man. Insert disclaimer here that you shouldn't take my advice or anyone's advice. This is not professional advice. Please don't text me about the hangover you still had after you followed my wonderful tricks.
No, it works for you and Will, so it works for everybody.
Man, there's this. Don't send me down this wild tangent. There's this internet culture of like, you've been doing this wrong your whole life, or like the right way to do XYZ. Man, like, I approach life the way that I approach this podcast, right? There's no right way to be a dad. There's no right way to be a parent. Just do what makes sense to you and what works for you, because there is no, you've been doing this wrong your whole life. I mean, sure, like, maybe if there are instructions on the box and you haven't been following them, you're not doing it the right way. But for the most part, like, it's pretty straightforward. Just do what works and don't do what doesn't work, and you'll be fine.
Exactly. Make sure your kid's happy and healthy. What is it, Cheerios commercial? Like, be happy, be healthy.
Yeah, man.
Like, that's all it takes for children.
I'm stuck on Band-Aid, Brandon. Band-Aid's stuck on me.
You know what? Whatever works. Random fucking slogan.
I don't know why you brought up Cheerio.
Whatever fucking, because you know what? Kids eat Cheerios. That's why. Whatever fucking slogan works for you. You know, real men of genius. You know, what is that? Bud Light or Budweiser from the early 2000s. Like, whatever works for you as a dad, fucking do that shit.
Love it. Well, thank you for joining us on this wild ride of a podcast with no real clear direction. This week is a reminder to all of you that it's not easy being a dad. It's fun and it's wonderful, and it's the best hard thing you'll ever do. But some weeks are wild, and you know, you're not alone. We're proud of you for sticking through it and doing the hard thing and making the hard choices and prioritizing your family and your happiness. And remember that it's not selfish to take care of yourself. So many dads get wrapped up in that idea that they have to martyr themselves for their family. And you know, like Derek said, what your family really wants is 50 more years of you in their life.
That's right.
So thanks for joining us. We'll be back again next week to talk about even crazier stuff, I'm sure. If you want to come on this show and talk about your crazy dad life and strategies and whatever you're facing, message us on our social media. Our links are all down below. We're Proud of You Dads on Instagram, Twitter, and pretty much anywhere where you can find us. We'd love to have you on as an expert dad to guest on the podcast with us.
And we still need that dad joke podcast that we did mention. I'm still waiting for that because I want to see what dad jokes make me laugh.
Yeah, send us your best dad jokes. You can email us at proudofyoudads@gmail.com or hit us up on any of our social media, or just throw those dad jokes down below in the comments section if you're watching this on YouTube.
That's right.
We appreciate all of you so much. Until next week, I'm Andrew Goody.
And I'm Derek Mata.
And we are proud of you.